Okay. We're back, and the camera's bouncing, so I'm just gonna put it right there. Book review right now. I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. I'm just gonna jump right into it. This is more of like a autobiography type, or just like I don't really read books like this about people's experiences and stuff. It was good. So there's not gonna be like a spoiler free and then a spoiler full version like there usually is. I'm just gonna start yapping. You know what I'm saying? I think I would give this like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And that is because it was extremely triggering at times. My mom passed last year, so I thought that this book would have been something to make me feel a little bit less alone, something to make me feel just like a lot of other people go through losing their mom when they're young. I knew that off the title of this book, obviously I'm glad my mom died, right? Off the title, off the picture of her on this book, I knew her mom was probably crazy and that her mom passing away probably benefited her in many ways. So I wasn't gonna agree with everything. The thing that caught me off guard about this book was how descriptive she was and how open and honest she was, which is not a bad thing, about her eating disorder and her journey through that. Trigger warnings for this book: obviously death in a family, getting molested, child abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, anorexia, bulimia, eating disorders in general, all of those things. Big trigger warning on that. And usually when I say trigger warnings, it's like, okay, this stuff is in this book, right? The eating disorder part of it was like probably like 70% of the book, no joke. So I read this book, but I listened to it in audiobook form, and a lot of the times I was kind of just like, oh god, all right, we don't need the descriptors. But that's just because that's just not what is up my alley in terms of detail, especially about something like that. But it's her book, her story. She told it how she wanted to tell it. I did enjoy reading the book. I don't regret reading the book. She actually narrated the audiobook herself, so that was pretty cool to listen to. In the book, she talks about Miranda Cosgrove, Carly from iCarly. In the book, she'll be like, Miranda said blank or something like that. When she said what Miranda said in the narration, she said it like Miranda speaks. So it was like, I was like, oh whoa, because it sounded like Miranda, because she obviously spent so much time with her. She was really good at mimicking her voice. So I'm like flailing my hands around, let me relax. So that was cool. A lot of insight on Nickelodeon and like the tea there. Not as much tea as I'd wanted, to be honest. Some tea, for real. I was rooting for her throughout the book. I kind of was like, I want you to get better. I want you to feel happy. I want you to come out on top. I want you to prioritize your mental health, you know? At the end, I was really happy for her, and I feel in a weird way connected to Jennette McCurdy. It was a good book, to be honest. If you struggle with the eating disorder at all, like literally at all, if you struggle with calorie restriction and bulimia or anorexia, or like have thoughts about those kind of things, I would strongly recommend to stay away from this book, for real. Just because it is very blunt and forward when talking about what an eating disorder does to you, and it could probably make somebody who struggles or struggled with that in the past relapse or something. I don't know. It was a lot. It was a lot, even for me, who I just feel like I can read anything. What else? She dove into her past relationships, which were really interesting to hear about, to be honest. I liked her narration voice, but I liked the voice she had throughout the book. Even if like you were going to read it yourself, you got her personality throughout the book very well, and that was really refreshing to hear, to be honest. Another thing I liked was that her voice changed throughout the book the older she got. So she kind of told it in chronological order of her life. In the beginning stages of the book, her voice was very naive and very forgiving and very like mom knows best, whatever, and we see her development in here in regards to her opinions, in regards to how she feels about her mom, her life, acting, all this stuff developed throughout the book. So she did a very good job at translating how she was maturing by the retelling of the story. It was very impressive. I enjoyed the book. I really did. I gave it a 3.5 stars, not a 4, because a 4 I would strongly recommend to anybody. A 5 is like my favorite book of all time. I don't think I would strongly recommend this book to anybody. So that's why it's like a 3.5, because it was a really good book and I would recommend it to somebody that feels like they can handle it. I'm really happy that I plowed through. To be honest, I read it, or I listened to it. It took me 3 days to finish. It was great. I listened to it on 1.5 speed because I just don't have the patience to listen to somebody talk without me having to like keep up, you know what I'm saying? Because if not, I'm not paying attention. I don't know if she has any other books that she's written. Maybe this is her like author debut. I think she should write more. I think she has a great voice. I think her humor comes through a lot. There was a lot of times in the book where she said one-liners or just like a one-liner question that made me really smile to myself and be like, you're so funny. Like, that's actually super clever, you know? I feel really refreshed, actually, after listening to the book. I've been kind of on a dry spell, and this was a really good book to read. I love reading about and hearing real life stories that people really went through. I didn't watch a lot of Nickelodeon growing up. I wasn't really allowed to watch Disney, Nickelodeon, all that stuff, but I watched it anyway. iCarly, classic. So it's really eye-opening and almost like heartwarming to hear about somebody that I knew about since I was a child, hear about their come up, and listen to their mental health success story. I feel like I love her. She's cute, bro. I love her. And I just wish her the best, to be honest. So read this book if you're grieving. Read this book if you want a good story. Don't read this book if you have an eating disorder or you have had an eating disorder. I don't think it would be in your best interest. But if you like a good real life story, if you like a come up, if you like listening to a book that's gonna make you chuckle from time to time and cringe from time to time and hate somebody but also love somebody and cheer somebody on, read this book. It's good. 3.5 out of 5 stars is my final review. That might change in a couple weeks or in a couple months because sometimes when I sit in my book review and like stew in it, things change a little bit, but I'm glad I read this before 2023 ended because people have been talking about this book up and down. It's in the press, she's done an insane amount of interviews. Now I'm gonna go watch those interviews because I really am like, this kind of made me a fan of hers, to be honest. So I'm glad I read it because it was everywhere. And the title really, really caught my attention. So yeah, good book.